Hi, longtime listener, first time caller. I just listened to your The Whale episode and I am livid. You have this guy, Ryan, and he hated the movie. He hadn't even watched the movie. Like, my dude, how can you hate a movie you haven't even watched?
That's cinema, baby.
No, Mr. Wilson. I don't have to take that kind of talk from anyone.
That's right, you don't. How about going outside and trying to kick me around?
I'm not supposed to fight with the guests, Mr. Wilson.
I'm not a guest tonight, you yellow bastard. I happen to be an intruder.
Hello, and welcome to The Good, The Pod, and The Ugly, a film podcast where we pair movies to get a better understanding of the filmographies of notable directors and whatever. I'm Thomas.
I'm Ken.
I'm Ryan. He who does not watch the picture.
What do we normally do, Thomas?
We normally watch the films. We watch two films, and we pair them, and then we talk about them, and we get a better understanding of creators. But this season, season 14, we threw that out the window, and we decided to just like pair movies kind of willy-nilly, but films that we hadn't either been able to comment on in previous episodes, the first 5 years, or movies that we felt like deserved a second watch.
Yeah. We each got to pick two, the three of us, and then our previous guest host, Jack.
So this is the second of one of those pairings. The first episode for this second pairing, we recorded last week. Ha ha ha.
Wink.
And wink oink. It was Pig during our Nicolas Cage season. And we have paired that fittingly with The Whale from our Aronofsky season.
Which is just barely a year old.
Yeah. Last year, an ice storm. This year, an ice storm.
Wild. Last year, Ryan famously didn't finish the movie. And this year?
He did.
Oh, okay. Woo. So both The Whale and Pig, to run through it quickly, have a few things in common.
Yep.
They both have food being eaten on screen.
Mm-hmm.
They both have a recluse who's visited.
Mm-hmm.
Both have a suicide.
Mm.
Both were shot for $3 million.
Mm-hmm.
Both have an expert teaching a young person how to do something. A young person talks to another person through a door.
Wow.
Yeah. A child makes their father a meal. And both the protagonist welcomes a stranger wearing a suit who thinks the protagonist should be in a hospital. Both protagonists are separated from their wives, appreciate a specific amateur work of art left behind by a woman. Both eat chicken, and both have quit their jobs. In each film, someone talks about an apocalyptic biblical disaster, an earthquake, or the end times. Yeah. I'm not a bird expert, but there might be a robin in both. Over the credits, you get nature sounds.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Both fill the Bechdel test. And for all four of the movies that we've watched so far this season, High Plains Drifter, Death Becomes Her, Pig, and today's movie, we have characters coming to terms with and living on after the deceased.
Very good. And they both end with a bright white light above the protagonist.
Oh, yeah.
Well done, Thomas.
Thanks.
So, Ryan, you picked The Whale for one of your two.
Yes,
correct?
I felt I owed it to you all and our listener. Thank you for your feedback and comments, listener. I felt I owed it to you all and our listener to actually watch the film from end to end, and so this time I did that. Because I love
which end did you watch it from?
And I love our listener.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Well,
so that was the only reason I was here, so I'll see you guys in the next episode.
In 2022, you could have also watched The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which we covered, or The Fablemans, which we also covered.
That was a good one. Big fan of The Fablemans.
Ugh.
So I guess maybe And on the original episode, unfortunately, Jack couldn't join us. He's on a bus. We're missing some money from the podcast fund.
Yep.
We hope he comes back, Jack. If you're listening, we'll accept you back.
It's just money.
Yeah, it really is. Jack, fine.
So we're unlike other episodes, having the same exact hosts on for the Redux.
Yeah.
And in that original episode, I have a quote here. This is after, this is the paraphrase, fuck the MacArthur Foundation, fuck this playwright, anything he'll ever make. The host then goes on to say, Aronofsky and this Hunter person are trying to pretend that they are not here to gawk at the fat man, but that is the only thing that this movie is offering.
Yes.
One of the three of us made that quote, and I'm curious if that holds true.
Yeah, I didn't. And looking at Letterboxd after I rewatched, some viewers felt stronger than I did and went so far as to say that this makes them retroactively dislike any other Aronofsky movie. I don't feel that way quite strongly about it because I think I have a proper understanding of how to contextualize his films, but this is the worst film I've ever seen. By leaps and bounds. This is just the most...
Can you give us something? Can you give us something that's close to second for your worst film? Just so we have like a baseline.
The aforementioned context is very needed here.
Let's see some other low-ranking
because you high on your list historically has been Cats. So I'm just curious.
Well, yes. Then let me provide some context. I rank movies by how much I enjoy the experience of watching them. So for me, a terrible picture like Cats can be a marvelous, wonderful viewing experience. And so that's how I value films. This is a miserable picture. Oppenheimer is obviously down there at the bottom for me. Batman versus Superman, Moulin Rouge are some of the other films that would be in my like bottom five.
Okay, we're on the same page with Moulin Rouge.
Yeah,
Baz Luhrmann.
Yeah,
fuck off.
I like him.
Why'd you have to ruin it?
I like Strictly Ballroom. I'm trying to think if there's any others of his that I like, and I don't think so. Actually, I like the idea of him, but nothing ever works for me that he does.
Okay.
I don't feel I could see. Actually, I don't. Can you guys describe to me what is the thematic? What's the message of this movie, or what did you get out of it? I'm not going to argue like on Oppenheimer or anything. I'll control myself. But what
You're not going to give us the BBC reporter? It wasn't BBC. What was it? Reporter question to Lars von Trier, where it's like,
why you make movie?
Yeah.
Defend the creation of this film.
Thomas, before we start, though, listening to the episode, it was your second time seeing it. And then I found myself the thoughts I was having, just having watched it the second time yesterday, extremely similar to yours on your second viewing. You're the only one of us that's seen it 3 times.
Yeah.
How has the movie changed between each viewing?
I would say that I appreciated the writing more on the third viewing, just from a technical level, not character base.
Yeah.
But I think my second viewing, I was even more captivated by the characters and how ambiguous some of the work was, or some of their motivations are, and how true and conflicting they are. The third viewing, I think relaxed a little bit about it being a play.
Yeah.
So I was not as upset that people just kind of magically walk in and out of the house at the most convenient times. Oh, come in. Jack! Oh, I thought we told you to get out. I was also surprised, I guess, a little bit about how often we do leave Robin, the Brendan Fraser's character's perspective.
Charlie. Robin was
Charlie.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Different
Charlie.
recluse.
Yeah, thank you. how often we leave Charlie's perspective. I thought it was very limited in the first time, but like as much as we get what I call Elder Thomas, the missionary, and the Sadie Sink character, is a little bit more apparent, and
Yeah.
a little bit. It feels a little bit more like a play for that. I did think
Yes.
that I did want Thomas's mission. It seemed a bit fake, or the fake out of it. It just seemed like it was a little too much this third viewing. I would have liked it to have been trimmed back.
It is very convenient.
Or removed.
Its wrap up is very convenient and very. It's more. He's more there for her than he is there for the overall story. I felt.
Well, I do. I mean, I think what I like about his character is that he's also a parallel of optimism with Charlie, right?
That's true.
So he is a different type of optimism than Charlie is. His optimism seems to have no bearing in reality, whereas Charlie's optimism is also a little untethered, but it's a sadder optimism. It's the comedian that deals with depression but is funny on stage. It's a darker optimism to my mind.
Yeah.
Instead of just being a very genuine sense that the world's going to work out all right, or the world's a good place. And you, because this is your second watch, and both times have been.
Yeah, I think the first time, spoilers, the first time watching it, I thought the Moby Dick essay was written by also Alan Grant. How come his dead lover's name is Alan Grant? That's the name of a famous British comic book writer and the main character of Jurassic Park. Hunter could have picked a different name. But aside from that, I was really impressed by how it's stitched together narratively. I was really super impressed knowing how it ends and knowing what everything kind of means beforehand. It was a really impressive display of writing prowess.
I was surprised at how much gets packed in that introduction. I mean, after the exterior bus and the title, we get the around the couch shot of the Brandon Fraser character, Charlie's reveal, and he's masturbating, and you get Thomas coming in that moment, and it's all just he's got the essay which he's trying to read, which he wants the Thomas character to read. So like almost all the elements are right there. Like you'll get his daughter and the nurse like later, but all the main thematic elements, it feels like, are just kind of introducing that in a minute, and you're not sure what they are or what they're going to be, and the film is unpacking those things.
Yeah, and then his first Zoom call with his students also packs a lot in for both his character and maybe the narrative itself, with the broken camera, Chekhov's broken camera. Yeah, it's such a concise way of establishing that he's not just a recluse, but how he interacts with the rest of the world. His intelligence about one part of it, and then we can plainly see his willing lack of regard to his own health. Sets it up very fast.
So yeah, that was my main change on this next watch. My main change on my first listen through of the original episode was that I was extremely diplomatic. I really did not put my opinions or reactions out there. I was very open to understanding Ryan's point of view and letting him cook.
Yeah, I think you guys were very handled it well.
Yeah, I mean, we got into a lot about the responsibility of art and the artists, and the responsibility of the people consuming it. It was a great conversation, but yeah, I found myself very frustrated, Ryan, by you. Sorry.
No.
That you were, I felt you were looking at something I felt was a small, bleak but weirdly hopeful, optimistic character study, and turning it into something that was a statement that I felt had nothing to do with it. Because when I think of the movie, I don't even think of it as, oh, it's about that big fat guy. I think about it as a very broken man who is, whatever he's doing, himself to death, knowingly doing it, and then trying to make some kind of amends with his daughter, who is also very broken. And that's really it.
Yeah, and that is the essence of, that's the first level of my issue with the film, is that I just don't believe that you should use someone's body as a symbol of your character's emotional development. If this was a paraplegic or something else, I would feel the same way. I just think that the obesity is treated as a spectacle, to gawk at and to imbue with this. It's a very easy way to say, oh, look, he's carrying his guilt around as 400 extra pounds of body fat. It's not that I am right and that nobody should watch this picture. For me, because of socio-political feelings I have, that just doesn't work as a premise. But then there's another level, which is that I have a lot of addicts in my family, and this man is an addict, and everyone in this film is enabling him. And in my opinion, everybody in this film is worse off for having known this guy after he passes. That's, again, another personal opinion about the subject of how you deal with like addicts and their behavior and stuff like that. But because I am close to both of these things in real life, I cannot make this whole thing into a metaphor by watching a picture about it, personally. And I would hasten to point out, and again, we're not necessarily right, but if you look on like Letterboxd or any place with user reactions, there are a lot of people who responded to this film in exactly the same way I did. And because I respect the podcast and I respect you all, I will watch the film from end to end in the future. But none of my opinions were only deepened by actually watching this whole thing. It was, in my opinion, what I thought it was, looking at the box and the poster, and reading the reviews when it came out, and nothing about it changed to me. And that's why I honestly asked you guys a few minutes ago, like, what is the emotional value? What did you take away from this movie that was meaningful? Because for me, I plainly couldn't see it. And I don't want to tear it down or take that from you. I'm genuinely curious, like, what resonated with you emotionally?
The slow unpeeling of the onion of his character. I think in the first episode, Thomas rightly mentions that in a lesser director's hands, the stuff with the beach would have been introduced probably before the movie even starts. But as it slowly reveals itself, the power of the ending and his belief in both his daughter and like his students is so overwhelming and in diametric opposition to how he's treating himself in his own immediate future. It's really powerful how you can have two opposite things happening at the same time, and telling his daughter that she is perfect, even though we as the viewer, one of the great things about the text and the movie is we are not 100% sure about her, even at the end, whether she is a demon child or she's just a broken person who needs somebody to tell her she's all right. And the way Aronofsky uses Fraser's size, he's a tall king surrounded by a bunch of short queens. And Brendan Fraser's eyes, which I mentioned in the first one, are so big and empathetic that the windows into the eye of the soul nonsense really holds true. The camera loves his eyes, and that's really, his character comes through, I think, just with his eyes almost, where I believe in him and I believe the stuff he is saying that he honestly believes about other people, at the same time destroying himself. And then the ending is just completely magical when his feet come off the ground. Mm-hmm. And I'm like crying. I cried the first time and the second time. I'll probably do it a third time if I ever watch it again.
I do think his performance is extraordinary. I think I never respected him as an actor. I was in my cynical early 20s when like The Mummy and stuff hit. So I never really gave him the time of day past being Encino Man.
Mhm.
And he is this is one of the finest dramatic performances I've seen. It certainly was worthy of the award and stuff.
Yeah, and because I guess it's my thing. Brendan Fraser is 6'3", Hong Chow is 5'1", Sadie Sink is 5'3", and Samantha Morton is also 5'3".
Hong Chow is also she's been in a series of movies that I really dislike, but she is amazing in every single one.
And her character is really like the linchpin of the whole movie for me because of how I'm still not sure how to feel about her at the end. It's the complexity and the KNOT naughtiness of their interactions and whether they're doing something good or bad or using him. Yeah, it's a fascinating thing to think about.
If the movie were just those two characters, then I might feel quite a bit differently about it, because I think their interactions are the closest to getting at what's really going on with two people like this.
I guess two things that I enjoy as narrative elements that don't always get much play, especially now. It feels like one was more of a thing in the 60s and 70s, and the other maybe in the 90s. And that is financial concerns, and the other being a dedication to an idea or a cause so great that you're willing to die. And both of those are elements in this film.
Yeah.
And I do think it's extremely interesting that turn that happens where Hong Zhao's Liz, the nurse, is like, wait, I had to walk? My car broke down? You have all this money and I've been taking care of you. I've been giving you this equipment. I've been doing all this for free. You've been like exploiting my friendship and love and caringness so that you can accumulate money to give it to your daughter, who's a piece of shit. And it's
a fair
interesting.
argument.
Yeah.
I've spoken many times, especially when we did a lot of the 70s movies, the Eastwood movies, or some domestic movies from our VHS stuff, that financial anxiety is something that has all but disappeared from mainstream Hollywood cinema.
Yeah.
But it's something every single person watching those movies feels every single day. And I agree with you 100%, Thomas. It's great.
Yeah. And
it's a reflection of how we actually live.
And I think the other part of this, which I think is interesting that I didn't bring up last episode, and I don't think it's like enough to make a film, but an element I do like is that it has social media in it. It actually takes place now and not in some weird Hollywood netherworld.
Yeah.
Because Pig didn't make a lot of sense because they're like, oh, who is this? Oh, I'm just going to look him up on the internet.
Yeah, although it does have a 16-year-old using Facebook, which...
Oh, I thought she was graduating. So she would be 17 or 18, right?
Okay, I don't know what the age is where Facebook is applicable for youth. I guess my 18-year-old niece is on Facebook now. I'm not on Facebook, so I don't know. So maybe it's coming back. I don't know. For the kids.
The youth are getting it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a circle and it's for the kids.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that really answers your question. I do think that the question is often, I mean, I guess if the question is like, what did you get out of this? That's a little bit different question than like, why does this movie, how justify this movie?
Yeah, I think that there's less justification for something like Deadpool and Wolverine than there is from The Whale, because The Whale is something that's trying to establish an emotional connection with the audience and take them through a character's journey to have kind of an elevated, transcendent feeling towards a movie at the ending. And this is the movie that I would rather see a million times more than Deadpool and Wolverine, which fucking sucks.
I didn't see that picture, but for me, what I feel to be the inauthenticity of this movie negates its attempt at that connection. But again, it really didn't. I didn't see this movie. I did not experience any scene of this picture the way that you guys experienced it, and so it's just a very different. I mean, at the
So is that
transcendent ending, and I feel this is maybe a crude joke, but I feel it is a summary of the problems with this film. The narrative breaks with reality when he ascends and has his heaven moment on the beach. But she's living in reality, and the thing that happened next is that her 650-pound father was lumbering towards her, had a heart attack, and then fell on her and died. And that what would have happened in reality after the film leaves, I think that's a metaphor. I think that's a great metaphor for the practical reality of this man's effect on his family and friends, is that they were enabling him, he encouraged them to enable him, and then he passed, and their lives, they have to reckon with the emotional wreckage of his decision to die. And I understand that it's meant to be sentimental and nice the way he talks to his daughter at the end, but the reality of a person who feels like everybody thinks they're a monster, and then the dead dad who wasn't around is like, actually, you're my perfect angel. Like, I don't see how that helps her going forward in the world. All of this is very cynical. It's not the intended reading of the film. I'm not trying to convince you guys that you had it wrong or anything. This is just how I responded to the narrative.
Yeah, I guess it's also, I didn't watch it as a how-to parent video.
Well, I mean,
I might have been watching it a little bit differently, but
I have kids, so since I've been a parent, and this could be another difference in how you receive something like a film, but now that I have a small child, I immediately am very much in the headspace of whatever parent-child dynamics are at play in the film. I can't help but compare myself to the parents on screen.
I do not compare myself to Brendan Fraser as a parent, but I've raised two kids who are two lovely adults now, whatever. And the thing about being a parent, and we talked about this in the original, that Hunter actually went back and changed a little bit of the dynamic between Charlie and the Sadie Sink character, having had adopted a daughter with his husband between the original play and the movie. And he actually went back and changed some of the play to make the dynamic more realistic from his experience as a dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I really feel there's something about being a parent where you can't you just want to protect your kid at a certain age and have them go out into the big scary world as prepared as possible. And when they have these hurts and when they have this self-loathing, or she's clearly somebody who hates herself in a lot of ways, probably because she thinks her dad left her, which he kind of did, that you just want to tell them and hug them and let them know it's okay. And I think what the movie gets at, really, that's at its core at the end, where that's all he wanted, was just to let her know that it's okay.
Yeah.
And I think it's absolutely beautiful. And I think the way it's filmed, the way it's scored, the way Fraser sells it's a beautiful, magical ending. And I'm glad you didn't ruin it for me by me imagining what happens after the credits roll. But no, I mean, that movie really touches and deep down inside a lot of those feelings you have about being a parent. And you want to hug something that you can't see because it's like something deep down inside that has a hurt that will never go away. And maybe she'll be eating herself to death. And he wants to hug that part of her and let her know it's okay. Yeah. I think it's beautiful.
Sure.
I think it's transcendent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate your explanation of it.
I guess it also, as a confirmed childless adult, I watched the film and I see it a little bit like when you talk about Kevin, where I'm glad. Like, I don't want to have a responsibility because there's only so much you can influence. And I think there's an interesting ambivalence in the film about what Brendan Fraser did. Like, he's like, I was in love. Like, there's a sense, I think I mentioned in the original podcast, for me, watching the film, that his marriage might have been a marriage of convenience, his heterosexual marriage, so that he could have a kid, which is
Yeah.
what he really wanted. But then he wasn't allowed to keep the kid because of the courts, most likely, and the small town. And so he had to leave her to follow his heart, which is and it's a student, and he knows that that's bad, right?
Mhm.
And so it's there's a messiness that is the messiness of life, and people that we don't always get to choose who we interact with or who
Yeah.
is family. And everybody aside from Thomas in this is family.
Everything you are saying, if this was a movie where Brendan Fraser looked like Brendan Fraser and what you just described was the content of the film, and maybe you could even give him a heart condition or cancer, or something like that, which I still think that would be kind of a cheap crotch thing. But that's a movie that I can resonate with. What you just described is something both I know several children of queer parents who have their parent has left to be with a spouse. And I also know people who've come out late in life. And so, and the messiness of all of that, and it is heartbreaking and beautiful because normally the parent is leaving to be with someone they love and have their shot at happiness, and all of that is an amazing film. And for me, some of these choices just alienated me from receiving it as that sort of narrative. But I can see how that might be the nut of it for you. Yeah,
I think one of the interesting reactions to the film as a viewer, as a spectator, and I think is intended by Aronofsky and everyone involved, is that there is supposed to be a repulsion that happens initially in seeing Brendan Fraser.
Uh-huh.
And that disappears, and you see a human being as the film progresses.
Mm-hmm.
If you take that away, if you take that teaching an audience how to see the world and the film away, you lose a lot of the heart of the film, and it becomes instead crasser, colder film. If it's a person who's simply determined to kill themselves.
but that's honest, Thomas. That's the real world. Those are the types of people who do shit like this. Nick Cage in Leaving Las Vegas is this dude. Like, that's what the person is really like. I'm sorry, this has happened in my family. My wife's cousin was abandoned by her alcoholic dad at 10. He disappeared for 35 years. She was raised by her aunt and her aunt's family at great economic cost. And of course, lifelong trauma for the daughter. And then dad showed up. Hey, I have 4 months to live. I'm dying of leukemia. Let's be friends. And that ruined this family. That literally broke this family. Because the mental strain of you spend your whole life trying to deal with the absence of something, and then it shows up and says, you have a week to make your peace with all the shit that I dumped on you as a child and to figure out how to go forward in your life after I'm gone. Like, you're welcome. And so putting that lens on it is what makes this film impossible for me to,
okay. I'm sorry. I heard you say something earlier, like if he had cancer or something else, then it would be okay.
Yeah, because he's an addict. Is that reality? And the fat thing bothers me that is how it manifests. But his behavior is he's an addict. He's a food addict in this. He was an alcoholic in Leaving Las Vegas. It could be any number of things that he could be addicted to. But presenting an addict in this light, and then also making him a fat person who, as someone who has been fat in my life, and also like knows people who see overweight people and talk about how they're disgusting and they're going to die and they're so unhealthy. And all of that is untrue, right? Like, the complexities of weight in our society are much more nuanced than the complexities of addiction. And so overlaying those two things and comparing them and synonymizing them, and then presenting a story where this addict who's doing all the things that they teach you in AA and in family AA, to avoid, to break these habits, this is what he does. And then he goes. And that is just the most, so yeah, I have a lot of personal feelings, both as someone who has been overweight and had, I had a thyroid problem. I was almost 300 pounds, and I have my family telling me like to eat less, and they're worried about me dying from a heart attack. And it's like, actually, you should be worried about the fact that my thyroid is crashing. Like, that's actually the real problem here. Something totally beyond my control. And then to overlay that with addiction, which is also beyond someone's control, is just real tough.
Yeah, thank you for that, Ryan. That was a lot of personal stuff.
Yeah, and I
explains a little bit of the lens that you're going to see this movie.
Yeah, and I also just want to say, because it is all things that have personally happened to me or that I've interacted with, and that is not the normal viewer's experience. And so I'm not sharing that to negate anything you guys said about your enjoyment of the film or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, what Thomas was saying before about how his size and how we, the viewer, are initially supposed to see him is the simplest way to justify the route that they chose to go with this character, because a fully functional alcoholic is different than somebody who's eating himself to death, because you have to get past the visual part of it. It is a visual medium after all.
Yeah.
So I think it is justified within the text of his condition.
In a way, it's kicking the dog in every scene he's in, Every scene he's in, they remind you first, like, oh, he's fat, he can't get through this door, he can't pick this thing up off the ground. Like, so it's, for me, it's just a simple, like, to remind you, like, of his physical state. And then it does, to the credit of Aronofsky, and why this doesn't make me write off the rest of his filmography completely, is because I do think he is genuinely trying to present this as and this is different from what I said the first time around, I think. After watching the whole film, I do think it's genuine on his part.
Since we are like reading artist's intention, so does Hunter and Aronofsky as writer and director, how do they see Charlie? Are they filled with empathy or disgust, based on the text and the visuals of the movie?
So this is, yes. I think they're trying for empathy. I think there is a lot of dysfunction in how they are viewing these characters, perhaps based on personal experience or life philosophy. But that is where it is a meta thing. I see what you're getting at, Ken, and I agree with you that there is a sincere sentiment to make a heartfelt and emotional motion picture, which is different than I felt the first time. And
that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
But the danger, it sounds like from Ryan, is that you're sympathetic, and it might lead people to think that that's an okay way of being.
Which part of being 650 pounds, or
the addiction, or the support to the person who's addicted?
Yeah, the codependency is really the thing that is damaging in relationships with addicts,
Yeah, and then like when Hong Chow is handing him his big old sub sandwiches wrapped in foil, I'm like, should she be doing that? She is kind of enabling, at the same time chastising him for not looking after his health.
And that's why her brusque and insensitive treatment about his weight is, for me, the most genuine part of the movie. Is like, because every scene she's in, what I think is like the really what's going on here about addiction and stuff is what the movie is about. She's here because she couldn't save her brother. She knows she's killing this guy, and so she's repeating what happened to her brother, and that is wrecking her inside. That's like that's a real humdinger of a story.
She's doing the best she can to keep alive the one person her brother loved. I think that, and it's very, 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 very ambiguous. Like a lot of the characters and their relationships, like when Samantha Morton shows up, you think she's just going to be coming in all drunk and blousy, but she's not. It's a great scene that Morton has when she comes in and not what you would expect, and the anger is genuine, and the hurt is genuine.
Yeah.
And you're not sure how to think about him at that point because it makes him more complicated because you were thinking at the time, well, he just fell in love. He was there for convenience and that she was just a drunk.
Yeah.
Great writing, I thought.
And I mean, there's something double-edged to like maybe just human nature and captured in the statement that people are incapable of not caring.
Mhm.
Because if none of these people cared, then, Charlie would just be dead
Yeah,
sooner.
that's true. A lot sooner.
Well, it's a lot to contemplate. Now I'm wondering if it is just because some of this subject matter is so close to me that I just don't like it being portrayed on cinema for my entertainment.
Mhm.
Which is a good bit different than how I started off. So you guys have given me a lot to think about. I still hate this
Really?
fucking movie, but
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I did have a
necessarily-
question
Yeah.
after throwing my Zune across the room a few times, re-listening. Because I felt like I was doing an amazing job of withholding reactions. Do you, and in that first episode, the original episode, you had said, and this is after we'd only watched 2 Aronofsky films, because this was the second film that we watched, we
Yeah.
paired it with Pi.
Right.
Do you think that this movie for Aronofsky is a rebound, a cheap, like going back to the formula, not doing
Mhm.
anything new?
The wrestler formula.
The safest thing he could do so he could get out of director jail? Or is there, now that you've seen the film, do you think there might be anything different there? And you've seen all of his films.
Yes, having now seen all of his films for the podcast, and watching them in succession because I'd seen most of them before, I think Aronofsky is a superficial and solipsistic person, and I feel that when his films match that approach to subject matter, that it's a great fit, and that's why I like Noah and The Fountain and the silly ass shit he does, Mother. But I don't think he understands these people, these normal people in The Wrestler or The Whale. Pi, I think, was mostly based on his actual experience of life, so I think he has a better handle there. But I don't think he necessarily. What?
Black Swan and Requiem?
I think those are more in the melodramatic, silly season stuff. Very effective. I don't think that being superficial is a negative when you're dealing with an inherently superficial medium like film. But I don't think he's as deep as he thinks he is. And whenever his approach to a film tries to convey this deeper level of reflection and thought, I don't believe him. And I do think that this film was in part chosen to reconstruct his career, but I think he was sincere when he made it. And it was a marriage. I think he thinks of himself as a filmmaker who works in this big budget mode and in this kitchen sink mode. And so for him, it's not insincere because he genuinely thinks he's good at both of these things. I just think he's only good at one of them. If that makes sense.
So you're not excited for Caught Stealing this August?
Are
we going to do a podcast outing where we all go see it?
I would go see it. I will always be interested in what he's doing. Even if it's, any filmmaker who's going for shit. We, as to your point, Ken, we have so few who are trying to make movies that talk about economics, even if I don't think they do it very well. Anybody who's trying to make a fucking movie, a fucking picture, I'm going to support and want to engage with their work. Even if sometimes I think they're, shit.
So if you're out there and you're looking for financing for your fucking picture, talk to Ryan.
Yeah.
Let's
do Cats 2 and let's have some fucking Cats 2 fucking time,
I think
in season.
Aronofsky, I think on the finale of the Aronofsky, I think The Whale, the emotional ending of it is something Aronofsky has been working towards his entire career, which is why I find it more powerful watching it a second time, having seen all the other ones.
Uh-huh.
And I'm also really excited about him going and doing a 1990s set crime thriller in New York based on a book. I think it's going to be absolutely fabulous. I think crime stories that take place before smartphones is the way to go. And completely cannot wait for it. And I think that's going to be like a mid-level Aronofsky, where it's not going to be the super low budget, but obviously it's not going to be, Noah.
Well, I do like that he's genuinely trying something new, because he's not. Requiem has a crime element, but it's not really a crime picture. This is a brand new genre for him, so that'll be cool to see.
Thomas, you'll have to read the book and do a book corner for us.
Sure. I mean,
Okay.
I did read all of Batgirl, so we could talk about the Fraser Renaissance, but then that film didn't come out.
So because we did Pig and the Whale, and Ryan did not like either movie, we now have a list of movies that we cannot cover on the podcast as long as Ryan is co-host. Stray Dogs already slipped through, so Simon Lang, lucky guy. So this is a list of movies that we cannot have on the podcast as long as Ryan is co-host. The Lion King, A Boy and His Dog, Wolves, Silence of the Lambs, A Man Called Horse, Dog Soldiers, Animal House, Animal Farm, Planet of the Apes, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, A Fish Called Wanda, Kangaroo Jack, The Cat from Outer Space, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, Snakes on a Plane, Of Mice and Men, All Dogs Go to Heaven, Kung Fu Panda, Wag the Dog, Teen Wolf, The Elephant Man, Spanking the Monkey, Crocodile Dundee 1, 2, and Crocodile Dundee in Los Angeles, Gorillas in the Mist, Piranha, Grizzly, Night of the Lepus, Slugs, Invasion of the Bee Girls, all 9 of the Pink Panther movies, Panther Punchali, Straw Dogs, The Birds, Reservoir Dogs, Man Bites Dog, The Deer Hunter, Night of the Iguana, Day of the Jackal, Groundhog Day, Clan of the Cave Bear, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Escape from Planet of the Apes, Dances with Wolves, Dog Day Afternoon, Monkey Shines, Oz Perkins' forthcoming movie Monkey, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, actually all of 10 of the Planet of the Apes movies, and finally, sorry Ryan, Cats.
No,
I
so
even though
many
Dog
good
Day
pictures
Afternoon is one of my
lost.
favorite films,
Like Tears in the Rain.
I will be able to not watch one of my favorite films as long as we don't have to talk about fucking cats.
Okay. Or the movie, the PG-13 Cats.
Did you ever see Wax, Ken, or Talk Amongst the Bees? That weird ass thing?
What?
There's we should actually get the VHS and do a VHS corner if you guys haven't seen it. There's a psychedelic psychotronic film from like 99 called Wax or the Talk Amongst the Bees, and it's a mind-bending story about a guy who is a beekeeper and becomes psychically linked to his bees, who then call aliens to Earth to invade. But it's very low budget, and it's like presented using VHS camera effects instead of like trying to show you aliens and stuff. He just really fucks with the editing suite. But it's a wild movie,
Okay,
and it fits into this animal narrative.
So we'll cancel that and all the Candyman as well.
Okay.
Let's do the first 6 Planet of the Apes sometimes, though. That sounds good.
Wicker Man.
Oh, not the bees! Not the bees!
Yeah, we already did that one.
Yeah, but he's not allowed on it. So anyone want to say who Roseanne Barr should have played?
I think daughter.
I mean, I think we're really getting closer to my opinion on this picture. If she gets the whale, then we're right back where we should be. Now we're cooking with gas. Except Roseanne as being a kind-hearted person.
I'm
going
to go with my same answer from last week. The ex-wife.
Dan.
I think she should play Elder Thomas. So that first scene when she comes in, he says, read this. And she's like, Moby Dick.
Okay.
Moby Dick, written by Herman Melville. And then he dies. And then the movie's over.
And Ryan's happy.
That's a good fucking essay, though, for real. The first time I saw it, I thought the Moby Dick essay was stupid. But this time I was like, no, that is fucking solid writing. Good job, little girl.
Yeah, good job. Good job, Stephen. Is his name Stephen? Stephen Hunter? No, that's the author. Anyway, good job.
Samuel Hunter, the playwright?
Samuel Hunter. Stephen Hunter is the one that writes those books about those espionage books about fast planes.
Okay. Yeah, and Alan Grant wrote some Judge Dredd issues.
Yes, and Excalibur.
Uh-huh.
That was
that's right.
Yeah, and was played by Sam Neill in Jurassic Park 1, 3, and Jurassic World Dominion.
Hey!
Well done, Ken.
I didn't realize you guys were so pissed off at me during the first episode. I appreciate you having me back on your podcast afterwards.
And somehow becoming an official host.
Yeah, miraculous, huh?
It's great content.
What generous spirits you all must have.
Jack's not here to do the Bob Dylan, so
Knocking on Heaven's Door.
Oh, dude, I was going to say the same thing. That's it. Knock, knock, knocking on Heaven's Door.
Okay, well, good news, everybody listening. We're halfway through our rewatches that we've chosen. So only 2 more pairings after this. We're taking next week, for the next 2 episodes, we're going to be taking this show on the road with 1517 to Paris
and Honky Tonk Man. Hell yeah.
I'm excited to see both of these pictures.
1517 to Paris is one of mine, finally. I'm going to have a hard time defending that one, but I'm excited to rewatch it.
I'm excited to hear you talk about why you picked it, considering its reputation.
Okay.
But I've never seen anything like what I understand this film to be, so I'm excited to dig in.
Yeah, I don't think it's very good, but I think it's amazing that a big studio made it in the 21st century.
Is it special effects on the VHS done through the editing suite, right?
Yes, the aliens are all done in the VHS editing suite.
Okay.
Is it it's presented, maybe we should save this for the
We should just save it for when we watch it.
All right. I'm curious if what my understanding of the way it's presented matches it, but we'll just talk about that next time.
Yeah, it's terrible, but after 5 years removed, I find it very charming that the movie even got made. It's so dumb.
Yeah, he really had a blank check.
For sure. Yeah. All right. Anybody have anything else about The Whale?
Thank you, listener, for your patience. I hope this was a good mea culpa for my past transgressions.
Yeah, I think we got to the...
It took him 12 months, but he watched.
Talking to you.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear about you. I want to hear from you. It's 10-4. 10-4, old buddies. Destroy. Kill all hippies.
I don't hate it. I just don't know why you strayed from the formula.
You bastards! You don't know it, Bob. I'm an artist. And I must reflect that in my rhyme.
I am right, and that nobody should watch this picture.
What? And then the movie's over.
Everybody's spying on you.